Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show. And time flies when you are having fun. And, we have a late, but never one that we don't want to have on the show, Tammy Bateman. How are you doing, Tammy?
I'm great. Good morning.
Well, we don't, some people like to have an arrival.
That is correct. That is correct. And Tammy made a great arrival today. And she's with Tammy Bateman Properties inside the H-E-B.
That's right.
It's amazing because I'm always over there because one of the things is every time I go on my diet, I end up going to that H-E-B all the time and eating at that orange plate special, by the way. And I always see your office there. And it's such a great, beautiful office that you've got in there. You're able to see all the listings that are going on. Let us know a little bit about, I always ask this question, why inside the H-E-B? How is that, and how'd that come about?
Well, Chris, what happened was we are, of course, Memorial area agents, and that corner was being developed, and really Memorial needed something like that in the neighborhood. So it was initially by accident. We were going into the grocery store, just kind of looking, and there was the big red letters that said "for lease." So the wheels started turning like, all right. So I wanted to be in the quadrant in that corner, and it was like, well, we're sitting ducks here. Everyone has to walk by our window. And then, of course, we made it so nice in the way we showcase our listings and everything. Everyone's curious. And it just made sense to locate it inside the store.
And I actually said it was brilliant. I had talked about your business with somebody in our office, and I said, "Ooh, why would they want to be in a grocery?" And I go, "It's brilliant. Everybody shops for groceries,
They do.
And they shop at H-E-B. Of course, we're not getting paid for this. We're just having to talk about the facts here. And so, talk a little bit about your business and tell me where were you before, and when did you decide that you wanted to be Tammy Bateman Properties?
I decided I wanted to be Tammy Bateman Properties whenever I saw that area taking a direction. I had done a lot of work in Memorial, but also in Area 24, which is the famous north of the freeway. I do live in one of the villages north of the freeway, and I saw the value and just watching the growth over the years and what's happening in the Memorial area. So I knew that that corner was going to service that Memorial area, both north and south of the freeway. So it just became, it was just a business plan. It was an idea that, quite frankly, when the lawyers looked at the paperwork, they didn't say anything. And I was like, well, aren't you going to say anything? And he said, this is what I'm going to say. That is either going to be a complete failure or it's going to be a resounding success. Well, guess what? It's a resounding success.
I thought it was brilliant. And tell me, when did you do that?
In 2009.
So you've been in business about 4 or 5 years.
Yes. Well, I've been in the real estate business
a long time.
That
office, on business on your own.
In that location.
And where were you before that? You can talk about it.
Oh, my God.
It's okay. We're all friends here.
Oh, my. Well, I served some time at Martha Turner Properties and John
Doherty.
Doherty.
Be ashamed of that.
No, it was a great,
those are good people.
Great experience.
Absolutely. And one of the things we've been talking about, obviously, I think with David and with Sandra, obviously, we're talking about a little bit about the south side. You mentioned you live in the villages on the north side. You mentioned
Yes.
Area 24. All that area, basically on the Spring Branch area, a lot of redevelopment going on right now over there. I mean, even though, I tell everybody you have got the villages, et cetera, but Spring Branch is really, within that area, the Memorial area, has really started coming along, and we're really seeing a lot of change going on over there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's a natural progression because what's happened in Memorial, of course, is prices have become so high that it's hard for anyone to touch anything. So the same thing north of the freeway, the villages, you still have private police and fire. You're in the same school district. You're in a great location, and there's just tons of redevelopment around you. So it was, at one time, it was sort of like the hidden secret. Well, it's not so hidden anymore.
Right. Yeah, because I'm seeing a lot of, one of the things that we're seeing a lot of people coming in and saying, I don't want to spend $1 million to be on the south side of Memorial. I actually want to go on the north side where I can buy a home and renovate it for $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000.
Yes.
And so you're seeing that the value is actually, you're still getting location, you're still getting schools, you're still getting all the amenities that you talked about right there, but you're also getting a price that's a little bit less expensive than moving just across the street right there.
That's right. And what's going to happen there eventually, obviously, is that the prices will become just like south of the freeway. But at the moment, you have all of the benefits of being south of the freeway. You're just north of the freeway.
Right.
And so you're talking about Spring Valley and Hillshire Village. They're the two villages north of 10. If I was going to go out and buy a house today and I said, Tammy, look, I'm looking for something in the $400,000 or $500,000 range, am I going to be able to find something?
No.
No.
Because guess what's happened with that success? You're seeing lot values now in the 400s for the dirt.
Wow.
So, yes.
And so we're seeing people tear
Well,
those
just
down
buy
and renovate them.
I'll just buy one of those lots and pitch a tent.
Pitch a tent. They won't have any problem with that.
There you go. No.
I'm good.
That would last maybe 3 to 5 minutes until the Spring Valley police found you. Because they do love to do their job.
Is that personal experience?
Let's just say they know me.
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it at that. So,
Yes.
so tell me what the dominant value is. And I'm talking about somebody's gone in and maybe renovated their home and stuff like that. And I'm looking for, say, 2,500, 3,000 square foot. What am I going to pay in there?
You're going to pay somewhere in the 500s up.
Okay.
Yes.
And new construction, what am I going to look at?
Now, those have creeped up. We're looking at anywhere starting from 1.1 up to 1.4. There have been a few properties. We've had some in the upper 1.5s and 1.7s, but on an average, I'd say about 1.2 million.
Oh, my. I remember Spring Valley when you could buy in the 200s.
Yes.
Oh, my. So tell me about your
That's because
business.
you're old, Rob.
Yes, I am old. But I am the godfather of real estate.
See, there was a pause there. I
Yes.
was thinking, should I take that sheet?
Yeah,
cut?
you did.
And then
You
I went, yeah, sure, why not?
No, I wouldn't say old. He is experienced.
Yes, yes.
That's
Experience.
seasoned,
And so
well seasoned.
I had a question
Sorry,
here a
Rob.
moment ago. Sure. No, so you should not
He
do
forgot.
that to an older person. Is that because we're going to
You
forget
got
what
his
we're going to
train of thought all
ask? No, I want to talk about your typical client. So you've got a buyer client in there. Tell me who they are, what they're looking for, and why they're moving there.
Well, it's somewhat the same answers as what Chris spoke of before. People are looking for proximity. You can go east or west quickly. You can go Energy Corridor. You can go downtown. You've got your private police and fire. You've got the great schools. It's the same answer.
You know, a very interesting thing is I did a loan many years ago. I'm talking about 10 years ago for an individual who was the city planner. He was in charge of City of Houston planning. And so during this process, this is prior to me actually moving to City Center, I asked him, I said, what do you consider, and I always ask this question because I like to ask these questions, what do you consider the new center of Houston? Obviously, you've got downtown, which is considered the downtown, but what is really the center of Houston, which is why City Center is now named City Center? He said that actually Gessner and I-10 is the new center of Houston, and the reason why is it's the closest proximity to northeast, southwest to every major thoroughfare you need to go. If you need to go down south to Pearland or to Clear Lake, you need to go north to the Woodlands area. You need to go northeast over to Kingwood. You need to go west out to Katy. You need to go to Baytown. You're within a 30-minute drive, including traffic most of the times, from that area. And that was technically speaking Gessner and I-10.
Funny you should say that. I often thought about moving inside the loop, but I live in the lakeside area. And the reason I stay in there is because I can get out to the Beltway, and I can get to Cypress in about 15, 20 minutes. I can get to inside the loop in 15 minutes. I can get to Sugar Land in 20 minutes. I get to Katy in 20, 25 minutes. I mean, it really is a great central location.
Something that's kind of was amazing to me in such a short period of time. My wife's grandmother, before she passed away, lived out in Fulshire, Weston, out there.
Weston Lakes.
Yeah, and it seemed like an eternity.
It's still a good ways out there.
Driving out there.
It hadn't moved any closer.
Yeah, but the city has moved closer.
So the city's moved out to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That with City Center and all the growth that's taking place out there, I was amazed at how much that area has grown up. I mean, when we would head out there, it seemed like I'm driving to the farm, that kind of thing.
Right.
And there's so much more stuff now in between here and there that by the time you really get out to the middle of nowhere feeling, it's only 10 minutes away.
And speaking about the burbs, so do you find people are kind of transmigrating? Is that their children have maybe grown and gotten out of home and they want to move closer back in and they're choosing that? Or you find all ages transmigrating?
I avoid transmigrating in my diet.
Transmigrating. No, I do see that. What I see a lot is
in saturated fat.
Okay.
kids
Terrible.
who grew up in the Memorial area, and they go off and get their education and get their job. They come back. They want to live in the Memorial area again, and so because of the price point, they can't really touch those. So they'll venture into Spring Branch and get all the other amenities.
Well, and I think what David was saying a bit earlier, and just what you just got through saying as well, is traditionally speaking, when families grow up, the kids want to go back to where they know. Kids want to go back to where they lived, where their childhood memories are, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I've seen a lot in Memorial, which is don't get me wrong, I grew up from a Latin American perspective, so I'll probably end up doing this with my children, but I see a lot of children end up moving back because their parents are very well off, and they can have some assistance in going back to the Memorial area, to be honest with you, or buying some land, et cetera, right next to them. And so we're seeing a lot of people migrate back in, who you mentioned are part of those families, because, number one, they've got families that allow them to do so, but also because I think it's part of what we all do. We all want to migrate back to our roots. We all want to migrate back to what we know. And the fact is also you want to migrate back to a place that is known as being one of the best in Houston for as amenities, lifestyle, education, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree with that. And so I'm talking about a lot of times buyers coming in. Of course, they're getting frustrated. You're saying you can't find a lot of stuff. Do you have any clients right now that you are having a difficult time finding what they want in those specific areas?
Absolutely, which is obviously one of the reasons why our inventory is so low, is the sellers will say, well, I can't put my house on the market because I don't know where I'm going to go. They can't improve it. How can you get any better than where you are?
Yeah, the biggest competitor you have is the house they're in right now.
Yes.
I've always said that. So, so this is where we beg and plead for people to put their houses on the market. We do this about once a week, and we have been doing it for a long time because really, you know what? We're finding out that the sellers don't like it either. I mean, for that exact reason, they would like to maybe move up or maybe move down, but they're not finding what they want to move into.
Right.
And so it creates kind of like we're having a really brisk market. But there's a lot of people that are not able to do what they want to do because of inventory.
That's right. It is a little bittersweet, a blessing and a curse at the same time. You've got low inventory because the sellers don't want to put the house on the market because it's going to sell. But then where are they going to go? So it's going to have to be something, there's going to have to be what I call a life event occurring for that person, where they either are truly being moved or they're retiring or they're doing the scale down. And so they have a reason to go, and otherwise they stay put because there's nothing better.
Yeah, it's a great location without a doubt. So what other kind of trends are you seeing in that marketplace as far as styles of homes when they come in and they're looking for new construction? What style of home they?
I think it's still consistent and basically traditional, although we see a little bit more, contemporary, but in these neighborhoods, they are tightly deed restricted in what they can do.
And they're saying, I'm paying this much money, I want these amenities. What do they want? The outdoor kitchens and the pools and all the trappings? The
grand chef kitchens open to the den. They're wanting, destination master suites that are spa-like.
Anybody want two masters? I think they have a great...
I do.
We are coming up against a break right now. We have the well-seasoned Rob asking all these questions out there. We will have him back pretty soon. But stay tuned. We're going to take a break. We'll be
Stop hitting me, Rob.
back.
You give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight.